Revenant is a Western movie directed by the same director of Birdman, but this movie takes place in the years of the American frontier and stars Leonardo DiCaprio. Basically what the movie's about, without going into a lot of deep detail, is Leonardo DiCaprio is a frontiersman and he is attacked one day by a bear. He's severely damaged, he looks disgusting, and his men are trying to figure out what exactly to do with him. And one of the men who was supposed to be watching over him betray him, tried to bury him, and kill one of his loved ones. Thus, Leonardo DiCaprio rises from the grave to seek revenge, hence the name of the movie, Revenant. So yeah guys, I didn't really know what this film was going to be about, but from what I saw in the trailers, I knew it was going to be a very visually compelling film. I didn't know what it was trying to portray, but I knew just from the visuals, I knew it was going to be a very well-directed film. And going into it, it was. The cinematography in this film is spectacular. It feels like you are actually there when crap happens on the battlefield. It's intense. It's gory. It feels real when somebody gets shot in the throat with an arrow. And the amount of crap that these actors had to go through to make this movie is unbelievable. And while you're sitting in the audience just watching it, you can feel the burden that these actors have been given to fulfill these roles. So I've watched Birdman, and I have mixed feelings about Birdman. I think there are some portions in Birdman that I liked, and there were portions in Birdman that I disliked. But I did like the parts of Birdman, which was the whole film, where essentially the whole movie is one shot. And there are lots of scenes in this movie as well, where the director takes his time with certain scenes where they're over a minute long, or maybe even over 2 or 3 minutes long, where it's essentially all one shot. And it's very well done, very cool. Especially the first scene in the film where their camp is attacked by Indians. Probably the best way to open a film. I thought that was amazing. I loved how they filmed it. I loved how it was over 2 minutes. It just felt like one continuous shot. It was amazing. And the environment of them trying to capture the American frontier was genius. They caught everything, not only visually, but you actually felt the pain and suffering that Leonardo DiCaprio goes through in this film. Like, there's a scene in the movie where the camera closes up on Leonardo DiCaprio and he's breathing on the camera lens. Now, one can argue that like, oh, they're pulling an M. Night Shyamalan where somebody gets really close to the camera where it's pretty much inappropriate. But another person could be like, oh no, they wanted the audience to know how cold it was. And I actually felt like, oh my God, he's in a cold environment. I can't believe he's actually doing this. Why would anybody agree to this? And honestly, compared to Birdman, I absolutely like this film more. I personally couldn't find anything wrong with this film. I couldn't find anything wrong with the characters. I couldn't find anything wrong with the plot. It was a simple revenge story. I will say this is just kind of like a personal problem that I have with the film. As far as the film goes, it's pretty much a masterpiece. Like the way it's filmed, the way that the actors are portraying their characters, it's very well done. And I can see why it's gotten a lot of Oscar nominations today. However, the film itself from an entertainment value, I feel as though was very slow at some points. Especially where Leonardo DiCaprio rises from the grave and there's a large portion of the film where he is dragging himself through the forest trying to get a certain location. But I felt as though that was somewhat of a necessity of the film because it really was trying to convey that he has been through a lot. He just got out of a bear attack. He can barely walk. He can't even speak. And he's trying to go after this person that killed his loved one. I felt as though the long periods of pain and suffering and trying to get back up was definitely needed in order to show the audience he is willing to do anything to get his revenge. Even though it felt kind of long and drawn out, it felt necessary and kind of real. And speaking of kind of real, let's talk about that bear attack. Holy crap. Okay, guys, that is the best part of the film, was the bear attack. Without going much into it, you guys could probably like picture what a bear attack looks like. The bear attack in the film looks so real, so convincing. I mean, it probably was a CGI bear, but it was a really well done CGI bear. It was just so like, you were like sitting in the theater like, oh my God, that bear is tearing apart Leonardo DiCaprio. And going back to long shot scenes where the scene seems to be going over like a minute long or even more, that was like I know that scene was one shot. There was no point where the camera like turned or like cut or anything like that. That was a one shot scene, very well done. And just the amount of time and effort that they probably had to put into that scene is amazing, and it worked out so well. All right, so let's get to the point where I answer the question that you guys really want answered. Should Leonardo DiCaprio get an Oscar for this movie? Okay, here's my opinion on the matter. I feel as though that to receive an Oscar for a movie, I feel as though the role has to be very entertaining. I feel as though there has to be levels of characterization where the character goes from one point to another. I feel as though a character has to have really good dialogue and has to try to convey that dialogue in a perfect way in order to receive an Oscar for a male performance. Performance-wise, yes. I think Leonardo DiCaprio, after everything that he went through in this movie, I think he deserves an Oscar. I think he does. I think he went through a lot. He was out in the cold. He wore a crap ton of makeup to convince us that he was attacked by a bear. It was very convincing, and the way that he acted was very convincing. He was destroyed in this film. However, there is that part of me where I wonder to myself, should we really give somebody an Oscar because they tortured themselves in a movie? I'm not sure. Because when I think of somebody who deserves an Oscar, I think of somebody who entertained me, who I want to see more of in the future. I do believe that his performance was very well done, and I do believe that he went through a lot of crap in this movie. However, there is barely any dialogue whatsoever because in the bear scene, his throat is damaged. He can barely talk. So I'm definitely in that gray area about whether or not he should really deserve an Oscar, but I feel as though for what he did and what he had to go through, I think he deserves it. I think he deserves an Oscar. Now, if I were to pick another person to get an Oscar for Best Male Performance, I'd probably have to go with Michael Fassbender for Steve Jobs because I thought that role was phenomenal. But Leo has been through so much, not even just in this movie, just in his career in general, and I feel as though he really can't do anything else besides his role to gain an Oscar. So, guys, please give him an Oscar. So yeah, guys, that was my review of The Revenant. Absolutely loved it. Loved it more than I thought I would. Really good film. And I really wanted to review it for you guys because the Oscar nominations were just announced today. And after reviewing the long movies that were nominated for like Best Performance, Best Movie, Best whatever, I have made a decision for you guys. So for every main film, for every main category, I am going to try and review every movie that was nominated for an Oscar. For the main parts, for like, best film, best performance by an actor, the main stuff that we care about. I'm going to try and review each and every film. I think that would be super cool. I think that would be awesome. I've already reviewed a majority of those films in the past. So yeah, let's do this. And I just took care of another film, The Revenant. So thank you guys so much for checking out my movie review of The Revenant. Comment down below what you thought of this amazing film. Like the video, share it, and please subscribe to Pixel Talk if you haven't yet for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and gaming content. Also, follow me on Twitter. Do it. Do it! Alright guys, thank you so much for watching my videos. I am Corbin Stuckey, and this is Pixel Talk.